Without a healthy economy, we can't have a healthy society. And without a healthy society, the economy won't stay healthy for long. Mr. Chairman, but it isn't the state that creates a healthy society. But when the state grows too powerful, people feel that they count for less and less.
There we go. Former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher kicking us off. And here I am. Welcome to A Tomo and a Miracle Occurred. I'm Andrew Rose, your host here. There's a lot of stuff going on, so let's get right into it. Today, big news on the Consumer Price Index. Looks like we've hit a 40-year high. The core inflation print goes up to 6.6%. So congratulations for a lot of folk here who might be younger. You're going to get your first kick in the backside on what biting inflation looks like in potentially a stagflation environment. The CPI print, so that's a core inflation print. But then the CPI that includes more products is showing an 8.2%. Well, that's down like 0.1%. So not a lot there, but still energy prices going up, supply chains getting disrupted. It's impacting a lot of our goods and services. The bite hasn't come yet, though, so get ready for that. Some news coming in as well is, okay, well, with increasing inflation, why don't we just throw our money away? So here, Zelensky from Ukraine making some requests. So here are some numbers coming in. He's saying that they need 38 billion to cover our budget deficit next year. And great, can you and I just go out and say, hey, I need a couple $1,000,000 to keep my way of life going. No, I'm not providing anything productive to you and I as the little people here who need to make our ends meet, but yet here we go, blowing this money away. 17 billion to rebuild critical infrastructure. So you might have heard a lot about the rebuttal attacks from the bridge across from Russia to Crimea being blown up, and there were reprisals that came through, and a lot of those have hit energy infrastructure within Ukraine, a lot of thermal power plants. Nothing right now touching the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe. So thankfully, nobody's playing games with that, and nor do we want to. If you look at go and search for Chernobyl. If you think that Chernobyl's a walk in the park now and you can go and play and frolic in that area, think again. You can't. A lot of the things are still there from when people evacuated and haven't been touched because it's all still contaminated. Can't even eat fruit from that area. And this is 40 years, 1986, I believe. So think about it. This is not a place where we want to be, especially nuclear war or the destruction of nuclear infrastructure. It's just this is the reason why a lot of people like myself are having these podcasts, is to bring this information to the forefront and to look at, there's other ways we have to start thinking about peace, start thinking about security, and then continue on here. 2 billion to rebuild our energy infrastructure, and we need not less than 5 billion for gas and coal purchases. So think about that as we are being almost thrust into considering these dirty ways of producing energy. Here they are needing gas and coal because their primary nuclear power plant is no longer available. That is looking to be transferred, I guess, to Russian authorities and going through certification processes to bring that up online. So with that, then there's a potential that we're looking at a Fed funds rate of going to 4.5% or higher. That comes from Jamie Dimon today, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. He had some remarks today mentioning about, hey, we're getting together. So that was an interesting point. We talk about the geopolitical game board. There's a group of governments that are perhaps thinking financially and strategically. I'm not sure if the US government is there yet. Doesn't seem like it. We may need for the folk down south, again, I'm in Canada, that look, they may need to hopefully change what's happening there, because the only thing that I can think about is it's just vandalism. A lot of vandalism going on from different of these. You know, hopefully, where I'm lost for words here is that the particular party that is in power right now in the USA, being the Democrat Party, when I grew up, it was that party of, looking out for the little people, where the Republicans were big business that seemed to be dominating everything. It's like, well, what about the little people? They're falling through the cracks. They need help. They need government and group to think about them. And, Martin Luther King and the human rights movement all are progressive Democrat ideas, liberalization and making sure everybody can participate, and that seems to have completely changed. So this might be a reason why we're seeing a lot of these increase of the Fed funds rate. It's there are no confidence in the government, and uh, it's very much possible, looking at a 75 basis point or 100 basis point hike coming up at the next Fed meeting, just in front of midterm elections. So there is that. We're looking at with Jamie Dimon some, so I have to see if some of this is some remarks that he made saying on ESGs. So I have a article that I will put up. Stakeholder capitalism is not woke, says JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon, quoting from the Financial Times, where he dismissed claims that stakeholder capitalism is woke, pushing it back against conservative criticism of the environmental and social agenda that much of corporate America has embraced in recent years. This comes from Financial Times, June 1st, 2022, to now some comments that he made today is that, well, ESG investors don't give a beep, warning not to seed governments to do-gooder kids on a committee. Now listen to this kind of change in ESG, do-gooder kids on a committee. And this is the thing, ESGs, environmental, social, governance, coming from the United Nations. The idea is a one of these ideas that seems really good when you look on the outside of the tin. Is instead of the shareholder capitalism, where we're trying to provide value for our shareholders, we're now looking at stakeholder capitalism, where we have multiple different vectors, like how is your company doing with your social justice norms? How are you putting good governance policies into place? Perhaps reduction of corruption. Ha ha ha. Your environmental sustainment, are we earth positive and net zero? And then there's particular investors that will load up on these ESGs. You're going to find out very soon is providing value to the people who are risking their money to your company is going to be first and foremost, especially with those prints coming out from core inflation. It's going to be very important that the people who are going to risk their money want to get something back for it. And a bunch of people running around running committees. This is expensive stuff to have basically a Politburo telling your organization what they can or cannot do in order to meet this. To think about the Chinese social credit system. Well, ESG is a social credit system for organizations, corporations. So if you don't meet the particular guidelines of the ESG, you may not be able to get into different investment streams. So that's to think about. Jamie also says the world needs American diplomacy, and neither Trump or Biden can lead the USA. I think there's a lot of truth in there. There's a lot of sentiment to, what, with uh, Trump is not looking to be a unifying figure, and Biden, we came out of the gates talking about unity and has really done very little to help with that. And being up here in Canada, we face a bit of the brunt of this as well. So moving on now, energy crisis coming in. So when we look at the overall energy security situation within Europe, that is getting more and more dire as we move along. There is claims that a Turk Stream pipeline was potentially going to be hit. The thing about pipelines in Europe is there are some primary pipelines. We know Nord Stream 1 and 2, they were taken offline. Well, one was blown up. Nord Stream 2 was never certified. When the Ukraine war happened, that didn't go through. But here are some numbers for you. Nord Stream 1, 55 billion cubic meters per year. Both, so 55 and 55 again, if you have Nord Stream 1 and 2 up and running. There's a YAML pipeline that runs through, it looks like parts of Belarus and Poland at 33 billion cubic meters a year. Some pipelines via Ukraine providing 40 billion cubic meters per year. And that's a layering on of the Burisma and some of the talk about the 10% for the big guy potentially coming through some of those energy deals. Turkstream, the one that was potentially going to be sabotaged, again, claims from Russia, so we have to take that with the amount of salt that we want to take that with, at 31.5 billion cubic meters per annum. And there's another one called Blue Stream, but that doesn't necessarily flow to, it looks like it goes from Russia down to Turkey. Turk Stream is just, it goes kind of over and looks like through Istanbul and then goes up into possibly, I think that one, when Hungary was still trading, I think they went into the rubles for gas, or looking to do that, that they're being serviced by that. So if Turk Stream were to go down, we got Nord Stream 1 and 2 going down, it's going to be a very, very cold winter over there in Europe. And so we're going to see a lot more protests that are ramping up, specifically in France. There's talks of, I'll quote from France 24, French railway workers and civil servants voted on Thursday to join striking oil refinery staff with a walkout next week after French government resorted to emergency powers to compel some fuel depot workers to return to their jobs in a bid to ease petrol shortages. So we have many different vectors happening in France right now. Keep an eye on France. There's protests about being in NATO and supplying armaments to the Ukraine, because that basically starts to paint a target crosshair on France. And this is the part of the peace protest. What is going on right now to secure peace? To say, in none of this, we have a lot of worries right now with rising inflation, trying to keep food on the table, and people are just getting angry about that. So you'll see pictures from France where even the emergency vehicles, like the police vehicles, are pushing the cars manually and rolling them up to gas stations right now. And some images that have been crossing the wires. So a lot of this is having a functioning economy is very important for everybody to participate in, especially with high energy prices. High energy prices start to remove people from the ability to participate in the economy. If we want the best for everybody, we want the lowest energy prices possible. If heaven forbid, it would be great to have a Manhattan Project for fusion energy in some way, so we can get energy prices to as close to zero as possible. Here we are at Atomo. That's the miracle that we're looking to occur. Low energy prices, low inputs to products, low inputs to food. You can feed more people. The world has a better carrying capacity. If we want to take the idea that there's too many people in the world, and that's not an idea that I personally believe here, is we need to have more people in the world in order to, and my position is, if we want to be a people that gets off of this planet and can find new places to go, we all have to work together, and harvesting our energy as efficiently as possible in order to pay the lifting costs to get off the planet is extremely important for us to become a multi-planet species. And that would be at some point the sun's going to burn out and die, way after you and I are no longer here. But it's that part of providing the essence for that miracle to happen. So with that, what I'd like to do is to end us off on our, again, favorite prime minister. So let me see if I can bring her back for a moment here. And again, thank you very much for joining me. And with this, let's see what the Iron Lady has to say.
But Mr. Chairman, all this will avail us unless we achieve our prime economic objective, the defeat of inflation. Inflation destroys nations and societies as surely as invading armies do. It's the parent of unemployment, and it's the unseen robber of those who've saved. No policy which puts at risk the defeat of inflation, however great its short-term attraction, can be right.